Yuki wakes up after being kicked down from heaven. The first thing that appears in his sight is the silhouette of an unfamiliar little girl. The child introduces herself as Kokoro, who has been sent by the goddess Ametsu to protect the main character. She explains that she found Yuki unconscious and surrounded by a pack of fierce wolves. Fortunately, she arrived in time to rescue him, or else he would have lost 2 limbs by now. Kokoro asks for his name. After thinking for a moment, the protagonist answers that he is Yuki. According to the prophecy taught by the goddess Ametsu, she knows that he has lost almost all of his memories, which is why he appears somewhat dazed. But that's okay. She's here to guide the one chosen by the gods. Yuki doesn't understand what's happening, but because Kokoro seems so certain, he just nods as if he understands. Kokoro takes out some food for the main character, while explaining that, indeed, as she said, he currently has no memories. Realizing that she means no harm, Yuki happily takes the rice ball and eats it contentedly. The wolves from earlier haven't given up yet and return to target the 2 of them. Sensing the presence behind her, Kokoro quickly grabs her weapon and stands up. She tells him that these are manageable opponents, and once he accumulates enough experience, he will regain his inherent power hidden within his body. Yuki will eventually return to his days of glory as a ruler, and Kokoro promises to handle all challenges on behalf of her master. Yuki doesn't understand anything, but it sounds very profound. He follows Kokoro, taking a sword and heading toward the wolves with their somewhat dazed faces. Despite his confidence, before he can defeat any of them, Yuki is attacked and dragged away. Their first battle ends in a miserable defeat, and he is rescued again by Kokoro. Fortunately, because he possesses the protagonist's aura, Yuki is unharmed. He gets up and reassures her that he's fine. Just as Kokoro is about to feel relieved, he collapses again. This is harder than imagined. Yuki is still too inexperienced. He only woke up recently and has lost his memories. Now he's like a 7 or 8-year-old child, innocent and obedient, albeit too naive. In another corner of the same mountain, the scene shifts to an orange-haired girl washing her face by a lake. She plans to move to the city center today. Just as she reaches the shore, she hears a piercing scream from somewhere in the air. Running to the source of the sound, she encounters 2 men, one fat and one thin, with the smaller one crying while holding the other on the ground. The thin, tall one points to a distant ancient tree, saying his older brother has suddenly fallen ill. The medicine is in the bag under that tree canopy, and he hopes she can help retrieve it to save a life. The kind-hearted girl doesn't think much, hurriedly running in the direction he pointed. As soon as she turns her back, the 2 men break into wicked smiles. When she returns, the girl finds they've taken her belongings and run away. As for Kokoro and Yuki, the 2 move toward the city where many residents live. Yuki looks around with a strange gaze, and knowing he's confused, she explains, "In this world, there are many races such as humans, beast men, and even demon races, along with many other species. As for Kokoro, I'm not a human but an elf. Landon is known as the largest nation on the continent, and where Yuki stands is its center." Kokoro explains while glancing around, and when she looks back, Yuki is gone. Catching sight of him, she immediately runs over. It turns out Yuki is paying attention to a food stall. The shopkeeper looks at the 2, thinking they're a cute pair of siblings, but after hearing her explanation, changes it to a couple. Yuki, oblivious, doesn't explain but just stares at the menu in front of him and orders 2 portions with the most delicious names. Kokoro indulgently gives him money, but Yuki puts it in his mouth. She patiently explains to her clueless master that this is money used for transactions, very important and not to be lost or dropped. They receive their food and sit on a long bench to enjoy it. However, a more difficult problem arises. They don't have enough money for lodging. The sun has set, and Kokoro is about to turn away to sell the magic staff her father gave her for money, but he stops her. With that familiar smile, the 2 end up making a campfire and sleeping temporarily on the mountain that night. Just when they thought they would have a peaceful night, the 2 wolves return. Though ugly, they are more persistent than anyone. Yuki must have a powerful attraction for them to choose him as dessert 5 or 7 times. Kokoro feels extremely guilty, and the next morning gives him her entire purse to spend, while she must find work to increase their income to properly care for her master. Seeing his still puzzled expression, she worries that she hasn't given him enough money and promises to meet him at the same place in the afternoon to give him more. Just as she's about to turn away, Yuki hugs her tightly. Yuki has been taught to value money because it's precious, yet Kokoro still throws it into his hands. Yuki can't say much, only able to communicate with her using basic vocabulary, but Kokoro understands he's grateful to her. Yuki says he also wants to work, so the two head to an inn in town. Here, a beautiful girl named Karin who works in management comes to greet them. A large board displays various tasks with vacant positions. Kokoro notices a monster extermination mission, which happens to be her specialty. But with their current level, this isn't a mission they can take on yet. Finally, Karin finds a suitable job. It's a task to collect a certain amount of mushrooms growing near the Gato ruins, perfectly suitable for new workers. Their eyes light up, and they quickly express their gratitude. The scene returns to the orange-haired girl. She's still very worried about the chronically ill brother from the other day, as well as her lost swords. She completely doesn't think the other party had ill intentions. Coincidentally, she spots the very subjects she was just thinking about a short distance away. The girl happily runs toward them. The two young men, thinking she's coming to catch them for theft, run away frantically, hiding under a tree canopy in the forest. Thinking they've successfully shaken off the owner of the precious sword, they clumsily emerge. But when they look up, what meets their eyes is a terrifying sight. Kokoro and the main character coincidentally arrive at this garden for their mission, and after she shows him how to pick mushrooms, they split up to handle things themselves. Kokoro accidentally encounters a strange mushroom that keeps saying puchai puchai, so she calls it puchiko. As for Yuki, he encounters the orange-haired girl in the forest, who is nearly fainting and continuously moaning about being hungry. Conveniently holding mushrooms in his hand, he brings her to his assistant Kokoro and offers the stranger a lavish meal. After filling her stomach, the orange-haired girl doesn't introduce herself, so Kokoro calls her Pecorin and learns that they came here to pick mushrooms too. Suddenly, a series of giant mushrooms appear behind them, attacking straight at the three people. Fortunately, everyone has quick reflexes and avoids the attack. Kokoro suggests they cooperate to defeat the monsters, so they charge forward to fight. In a moment of carelessness, the child is accidentally caught by one of the opponents. In this critical moment, the main character suddenly awakens his outstanding inner power to block the attack. He involuntarily emits a brilliant light. The two teammates who are bathed in this light have their strength multiplied. The outcome is clear. While she's moving the pile of food, the puchiko from earlier falls out and jumps up, trying to bite her. Pecorin catches it with one hand and puts it in her mouth, to Kokoro's astonishment. After a loud explosion in her head, Puchiko has merged with Pecorin, who swoons and faints like a drunk, lying on Yuki's back as he carries her home. The next day, when Kokoro comes to find Yuki, she discovers him diligently practicing swordsmanship. The mushrooms they caught yesterday were very delicious. Kokoro shows off her cooking skills and uses them for breakfast. They wonder if Pecorin is okay. Yesterday, they heard her say she was also returning to Lando, so they only brought her to town. Kokoro says they don't have much money now, so perhaps they should find a stable place to live. The conversation accidentally reaches the ears of an uncle standing nearby. He approaches, strikes up a conversation, and suggests that she become a guide. At that time, the manager will lend her a house as a base of operations. As he's rambling on and on, the restaurant owner comes to chase him away. The two thieves who were attacked by mushroom monsters a few days ago were awakened by some crows. Just coming to their senses today, they decide to find a place to sell the sword. As for Pecorin, she wakes up in a stable and is hungry again. The main character and Kokoro accidentally encounter her at an eating competition, and also coincidentally meet the two thieves. As usual, Pecorin recklessly chases after them. Kokoro and Yuki, seeing this, follow behind. Somehow, the trio of main characters keep encountering monsters. Pecorin delivers a perfect punch to defeat the opponent. The wild boar flies dozens of meters and lands on a woman standing not far away, causing her to faint. Standing there, what to do? The group has to wait for her to wake up, as they feel responsible. They don't know that this girl is the mastermind behind the monsters the three have encountered in the past 2 days. Opening her eyes, she finds Pecorin staring at her intently. Instead of saying thank you, Kaoru coldly walks away. Has Pecorin really lost her sword? Isn't this a good opportunity for her to take down that little girl? Kaoru sits on a tree, muttering to herself. By chance, she spots the two sword thieves passing by, and then suddenly from the sky, a huge dragon swoops down and snatches them away. Don't misunderstand, Kaoru isn't involved in this. However, it looks interesting. That dragon is quite useful, isn't it? She directly returns to find Pecorin and shows the three where the dragon is hiding. Kokoro suddenly remembers the mission from the inn the other day. Below, it clearly states that the reason for its appearance is that dragons like valuable things, so they often linger around Lando. Each with their own intentions in mind, they set off to the cave where the dragon is sleeping. It's very large, and the sword is being tightly clenched in its mouth. That's difficult, isn't it? Kaoru leaves everyone to handle it themselves and hides. Yuki comes up with a bold idea. He chooses himself as bait. Kokoro will support, and Pico will directly attack. However, the situation isn't very favorable. Half of the plan has succeeded, with Yuki neatly lying in the dragon's mouth along with the sword, but no matter what Pico does, she can't pull it out, and is even dragged up into the air, spinning around several dizzying circles. Pico loses strength and falls out, but thanks to the head of the fat thief, she manages to hold on. At this moment, Kaoru, right below, uses magic on the dragon, controlling it to keep moving so Pico will fall. Just as she's about to succeed, Yuki uses his cloak to cover the eyes of the beast, causing it to lose direction, giving Pico the opportunity to strike back. The dragon can't withstand it and falls straight down to where Kaoru is standing. No wonder people often say karma comes quickly. It's all about reaping what you sow. The spell in the dragon's eyes is broken, and now all beings are equal. It wakes up and reaches out to kill Kaoru, but Pico timely blocks the attack for her. She retrieves her sword, ready to fight. Everyone is saved, and the two thieves thank Pico profusely. She turns to grab Kaoru's hand, sincerely grateful. A large part of this success is due to her contribution. If it weren't for Kaoru showing the way, how could they have ended the battle? Under the setting sun, Pico bids farewell to the two skinny and fat uncles and successfully invites Kaoru to dine together. Even though it's just rice balls made from leftovers from lunch, they're still delicious. Pico suggests forming a gourmet guild, but Kaoru doesn't want to get involved and angrily leaves. The rice balls are delicious, but business is business. She mustn't forget her purpose. Kaoru has spent a day following Pico, looking for weaknesses, but apart from eating and more eating, the girl doesn't go anywhere. Kokoro returns to her workplace to apply for the establishment of a guide association, also known as a guild. Karen is also very happy to complete the procedures for her, but Kokoro stops her, saying she's only asking for the registration forms for now. Yuki is sitting outside waiting for Kokoro to return when he spots a small figure helplessly falling to the ground. This situation is somewhat similar to when he met Pecorin, so Yuki doesn't think much and approaches the person, quietly placing a rice ball beside them, inviting them to eat, then coldly turning to leave. His demeanor is extremely elegant. The affairs of the world can't all be managed. Just do what you can to ease your heart. He doesn't notice that behind him, a devilish smile is attached to his shadow. Knowing that Kokoro has obtained the registration forms, the two return. On the way, they encounter Kaoru lurking outside the shop where Pico is feasting inside. Yuki and Kokoro invite her to eat together. Out of pride, Kaoru naturally says she doesn't want to, but her stomach betrays her by growling. Sitting in the restaurant, regardless of everyone else, she still maintains an indifferent expression. Pecorin hands the menu to Kaoru, saying to order whatever she likes. But when it's time to order, the restaurant owner reports that they're out of all ingredients. Oh, don't worry, this restaurant has a secret meal that only long-time customers know about. Pico doesn't hesitate to order one portion. When the food arrives, Kaoru finally realizes why it's considered the restaurant's secret. All the dishes are made from insects. They look appealing but can't change the fact that inside are big, fat bugs. Kokoro tastes it and then offers some to Yuki. Kaoru turns pale. Why is the child giving such food to her master? Kokoro explains that she needs to provide adequate nutrition for him. One must eat to live. Taking advantage of the moment of distraction, Pico immediately puts a piece into Kaoru's mouth, who collapses on the spot, but then immediately realizes that the taste isn't bad, if not to say, it's too delicious. The meal ends peacefully. At this point, Kokoro slowly takes out the notice of registration to join the club. Once again, she hopes they can form a group together. Pico immediately jumps up and runs to hug Kokoro. What a good child. As usual, Kaoru coldly stands up and refuses to join. She says she's not interested, though she thanks them for the meal. As she walks away, Kaoru reproaches herself. Her mission is to eliminate that little Pico, so how can she have time to sit and eat together like that? She even found the bugs in her mouth very tasty just now. She picks a tamarind fruit from a tree and puts it in her mouth, feeling the familiar sour taste, happily wanting to pick more when suddenly a voice comes from behind. Looking back, she recognizes it's an acquaintance. The other person questions her for being too idle, spending time enjoying life while letting the mission go nowhere. She angrily walks away, not wanting to argue further, with the eyes behind still following the unyielding cat. Another new day. Today Pecorin comes to tell her friends that the restaurant owner from the other day has invited her to work for them. He said the girl has the potential to master the secret menu, and directly hired Pico. There's nothing better than that. She just happened to be out of money for food anyway. Being able to work in a place full of smells and spices like that, Pecorin loves it very much. She can earn money while satisfying her passion. Kokoro tightly grips the registration form behind her back, no longer excited, not even bothering to take it out. Pico's first day at work goes very smoothly. Customers like her because of her enthusiasm and positive energy that ignites the atmosphere of the restaurant. Kokoro sighs deeply. It seems the road to establishing a guild is still far away. 3 little girls enter the restaurant. Pecorin goes to greet them and recommends the restaurant's best seller. Outside, Kaoru paces back and forth in front of the shop. Yesterday, her superior had ordered her to stop the assassination mission immediately. The situation has changed somewhat, but later Kaoru received some words of encouragement, so she regains her spirit, trusting that the gods above will always bless her actions to succeed, and opens the door to enter. What meets Kaoru's eyes is the scene of Pecorin preparing to feed innocent, pure children fried shrimp. What is this behavior? Seeing Kaoru, Kokoro holds the registration form and sidles up to her, but she is discovered and immediately scolded. But then Kaoru suddenly remembers that her purpose for coming here is to become a member of the guild. She clears her throat twice and starts rambling on the subject. Kaoru has changed her mind. She wants to. Before she can finish her sentence, a big man enters. He uses a rude and arrogant attitude, first confirming that this place sells insects, and his second sentence is to hit other customers who are blocking his way to enjoy his lunch. The big, crude man sits leaning back in a chair in the middle of the restaurant, rudely demanding service. The owner appears like a god who seemingly would defeat this rude big man. But unexpectedly, he has his arm broken by the man as easily as anything. Pecorin, seeing that this rude man is probably hungry, accepts his challenge and stands up to showcase her skilled pan-flipping talents. Actually, Pico has a special talent she hasn't told anyone about. As soon as food enters her stomach, she knows how to cook it perfectly. A delicious meal is completed and presented beautifully. The fat man secretly thinks to himself that no matter what, he must criticize it because he was hired by a competitor to bring down the shop. Kaoru absently looks at the registration form that has fallen to the ground, having been lost in thought and now decided to act. The man is about to enjoy the meal when Kaoru tells him to stop for a moment. She will let him experience the taste of heaven in the most complete way. Finishing her words, Kaoru takes half a tamarind fruit and squeezes it onto the plate. The whole meal lights up, and the fat man can't resist picking up his chopsticks. As soon as he puts it in his mouth, his taste buds explode. He can't believe these are really bugs. The harmonious flavor with each bite is like a brilliant symphony. Even his brain keeps playing cheerful songs. Those on the opponent's side waiting for a word of criticism from him to overthrow the restaurant are unsuccessful. The fat man's soul flies up to the 9th cloud, and finally, he can't help but exclaim, "Too delicious, really too delicious." However, very soon after, he lets reason defeat his heart, takes the plate, and throws it to the ground, shattering it. He promises to definitely close this restaurant. Pico can't stand it anymore, grabs his hand, and teaches him a lesson. Do anything, just don't waste food, because that's Pico's limit. This scene makes the whole room both physically and verbally subservient. By the end of the day, Kaoru also has the opportunity to tell everyone that she will join the group. They now have 4 people, meeting the conditions to form a complete combination. Their goal is to seek out all kinds of cuisines and ingredients in the world to enjoy together. Before them was the house provided by the guild, but as soon as they opened the door, disappointment struck. As beautifully decorated as the outside was, the interior was equally dilapidated and desolate. Everyone immediately went to complain to Karen how could the house be so haunted. Karen smiled awkwardly, explaining that there were very few houses available for lending, so this was the only option. There wasn't anything particularly frightening about it, except for the occasional ghost that chose this place to rest. Kaoru was terrified, while Kokoro felt that having a house at all was fortunate. She asked Karen for permission to clean up the place, and of course, the guild leader agreed. Everyone started cleaning, sweeping every corner of the house and carrying out each piece of junk. Suddenly, Pico shouted loudly they had forgotten the most important thing: a dining table. The goal of everyone was to happily enjoy meals together, so the table was very important and couldn't be chosen carelessly. Pico suggested she would make one herself. Having said that, she immediately went to cut down a tree. Kokoro went down the mountain to buy more supplies. Fortunately, they still had some money left from the dragon hunting mission last time. She also tried not to spend too much. There, Kokoro met a kind older sister named Sina who wanted to give her a plate that Kokoro really liked as a welcome gift. It turned out the other person was the leader of another guild. Saren had a maid named Suzum. Saren proactively said she would watch the shop. Suzum, help the girls carry this stuff home, she said. On the way back, they had a very pleasant exchange. Suzum recounted how her mistress was once the vice captain of the Royal Knights, but later left the position to help children without families or separated from their parents, establishing the Serendia Charity House. After some time, they reached their destination, a western paradise. The two people stood in the middle of a dark forest full of red eyes looking down, trembling without stopping. Kokoro tried to comfort her, but her way of talking was somewhat frightening, causing Suzum to pull the donkey and run away. As a result, she tripped on a rock and fell face down, while the donkey ran off. But they heard something rustling in the distance. Kokoro tied a rope into a loop, aimed carefully, and threw it forward, catching the target. However, what they caught was a talking donkey, not just that, but a very flirtatious one, and because it was female, it particularly liked to be flattered. Her name was Rima, working at a farm on the other side of the forest called Elizabeth Park. Kokoro recounted how she was pulling the cart when suddenly the donkey ran away. So Rima proactively offered to help. She might look ordinary, but she was very strong. Kokoro was a bit shy, afraid that Rima would get tired from carrying heavy items. However, for the little girl, this was nothing. At the farm, Rima carried even more. Yuki and Kairu were still diligently cleaning. She placed a chair for him to stand on and clean the windows. Suddenly, a bug crawled under Kairu's skirt, frightening her into letting go. The chair lost its balance without support, and he fell to the ground, hitting his head on the floor. His mind became disoriented because of this. In his hallucination, he saw a girl. This was a Metsu, that goddess or something. She vaguely revealed to him what had happened. Although it wasn't clear, knowing that even if she explained everything, Yuki wouldn't understand anyway, Ametsu didn't go on, creating a magical barrier to send him back. Before disappearing, she still managed to leave a message. When the relationship between Yuki and the girls around him, also known as his teammates, progresses to a good enough level, she would appear and help him again as before. She hopes he would try to wait until that moment. Yuki's eyes lit up as if hearing something very familiar. Opening his eyes once more, he again faced Kairu's worried expression. She sighed in relief, thinking there had almost been a murder. He recalled the words in his dream saying that Kairu was in a difficult situation, and signaled to her that he was fine. Yuki's mind at this point couldn't absorb many issues, but surely soon he would recover. The handmade dining table was finally completed. Kairu had to praise this little girl. She was really good, not just in cooking. Unfortunately, as easy as it seemed, there was nothing to talk about. The table was too big to fit through the door, so she had to carve it down for quite a while longer. As for Kokoro, they encountered a group of robbers who, seeing Rima as valuable, rushed in to subdue her, wanting to sell her to a circus, ignoring the two beauties on the side. They should have just captured her, but they kept calling her a donkey. As already mentioned, there's no donkey as cute as this. Rima angrily drew her sword and made a decisive move. In the middle of the forest, a flame erupted as if someone had dropped an atomic bomb there. After handling everything, she felt hungry again. Rima took out her precious apple and took a bite. The next event immediately startled the two. After a moment of transformation, what was initially fluffy and soft had transformed into a beautiful girl. After a tiring day, everyone had finished their work. Kokoro returned to admire the clean, flawless house with a happy smile. As for Rima, she was taken by Suzum back to her mistress. Thus ended a long day. The next day, Yuki fell ill. Kairu said it was because he always went to sleep with wet hair. Pekarin cooked porridge and brought it out, saying she'd heard that eating it hot and sweating would make one feel better. Pico, porridge is warm, not boiling water. After just one spoonful, Yuki's soul seemed to leave his body. The heat that the bowl of porridge brought had such a terrifying destructive power that even the sick Yuki had to jump up. Pekarin coaxed him like a child, saying, "Eat up to grow quickly or you won't get better," then fed him another spoonful. This was no different from medieval torture. It was even more brutal. Kaoru couldn't stand it anymore and said they were spoiling him too much. A man just needs to sleep one night and he'll be fine. Seeing him struggle, Kaoru came over to check. Just as she touched his forehead, she jumped back. The heat was like having the sun on his head. It was no joke. This was too dangerous. Kokoro was making medicine that she used to drink back in her village. Was it credible? Why did this folk medicine even have insects in it? No joke. Pico was planning to put bugs in the porridge. Kaoru held her head. Don't think everything can be solved with insects. There's no other way. We have to take him to a proper hospital, or else these two will care for him until there's only a dried corpse left. But Kaoru didn't know where the hospital was. Holding a huge map, they decided to just turn into some random place. Here, a girl who looked like a witch greeted them. In the attire of a doctor and nurse, it was indeed strange, but she seemed to examine patients properly. Pecorin had to remind Kaoru not to judge people by their appearance. The doctor asked Yuki to take off his shirt for a full-body examination. After tapping around for a while and lifting his arms, she saw something and immediately requested to arrange for surgery. What? Was it that dangerous? Silence all around. Watch this doctor here and see what she can do to make this young man feel 3 times better, she said. Quickly, he was placed on the operating table with both his hands and feet tied down. Outside, Kokoro couldn't help but cause chaos in the hospital because she was too worried. Kaoru reproached her. This kid gets all worked up whenever something involves him. We're in a city clinic after all. Stay calm to solve problems. Suddenly, some loud, ear-piercing noise rang out from inside the room. The 3 turned pale, and Kokoro panicked again. If Pecorin hadn't stopped her, she might have burned down the place. Suddenly, a skinny man ran past them, tripped over them, and turned back to scold them, as if there was no place to stand right behind him but to crowd the hallway like this. Wasn't this the troublemaker from the fish stall the other day? A few weeks ago, he was so fat he could barely walk. And now, at this moment, the skinny man pointed at Pico's face and scolded her, telling her not to joke around. If it weren't for her, he wouldn't be stuck here with whatever plague this was. The sound of sawing in the room rang out again. Perhaps the surgery was happening now. He recalled in fear. This was the moment. If he missed the opportunity, he would never escape from hell. This wasn't a hospital but a prison. No more talking. While those demons weren't present, he had to escape first. They didn't understand anything, but perhaps they should transfer Yuki to another hospital. A rumbling sound came from the end of the hallway. From the alley where the skinny man had run in, a girl stepped out holding an axe, and behind her was an unconscious man. He was being dragged across the floor, taken back to his place with a powerless body unable to resist. The 3 trembled as they looked up at the sign in front of the operating room. Kaoru turned to ask the nurse from earlier what disease Yuki had after all, but she didn't answer. Today, the patient's family is taking him home. Kokoro directly fainted. Who would have thought things would turn out like this? Since forming the guild, all they'd seen were crazy events. Now that little Kokoro had collapsed too, they were completely out of options. At times like these, one must eat a hearty meal to stay healthy. Eriko was the name of the scary girl who had dealt with the patient earlier. She was walking on the road when she heard a call from a fortune-telling stall by the road and went in. The woman said she wouldn't charge because her father wanted to read the fortune of the fated person, Eriko. On the table was a skull, and the soul inside it jumped out and invited Eriko for afternoon tea. She angrily gave the pervert a slash. In this world, she hated this kind of joke the most. She had to teach him a lesson to improve. The skull quickly became well-behaved and started fortune-telling. You're looking for your destined half, aren't you? That day is approaching. Destiny will appear before the young lady with warm breath. On her way back, Eriko was very happy. She didn't know what attraction she had that perverts kept seeking her out. The commonality was that they all received a slash from her. Perhaps today she wouldn't meet her true love after all. Eriko passed by the door of the operating room from the morning, but the gasping sound inside made her stop. Yuki was breathing like a fish out of water in the dark room. Opening his eyes, he saw Eriko's face right in front of him, making it hard to breathe. The next morning, the girls at home had also woken up, worried about whether Yuki had recovered. The doctor was too eccentric, making Kaoru very concerned. After breakfast, they would visit him in the hospital. Who knows, maybe Yuki was already healthy and crying for food in the hospital. But he wasn't just not hungry, he was nearly scared to death. Eriko was looking at him with her bright red eyes, holding a steaming plate of rice in her hand. Yuki looked at this scene with terror. Pico and the others were just setting out now. When they reached the hospital entrance, they discovered many people gathered there. All rogues. They said this hospital had stripped them of all their belongings. The girls were crazy to try to steal from them. Nurse Nanaka said she wasn't interested in people from the other side of the city, so they shouldn't try to attract attention anymore. This made them even more furious. That thief Eriko must be here, right? What greeted them was a sharp axe blade. So noisy in the morning, like a market, Eriko said. Eriko looked down from the second floor, using her cold eyes to warn the crowd, then descended in front of everyone. If they had decided to cause trouble, they must accept the consequences. Eriko took action without mercy. Now they knew who they had provoked. Nanaka didn't let her teammate fight alone and immediately turned half the city upside down. This power was truly frightening. Now it was the doctor's turn. She released poisoned flower petals, causing them to fall down. Twilight Caravan was their name, one of the most feared guilds renowned throughout the world. The doctor reminded them that if they didn't get treatment now, it would be too late to save them. All three stood frozen. They had brought Yuki for treatment to such a place, and they needed to get him out quickly. While the doctor wasn't paying attention, they sneaked into his room and found Eriko there. Yuki was sitting on a chair, tied up like a chicken. Eriko was about to press that hideous ring onto Yuki's hand. The three outside quickly thought of a plan. Kaoru started strategizing. Wasn't Kokoro good with insects? Time to utilize their potential. The hospital began to be covered by a purple smoke. While Eriko went to check, they rushed in to rescue Yuki. When the kitchen door was opened, there was no one inside. Pecorin and Kaoru were about to run with him when they discovered they were trapped. On the upper and lower floors were fearsome people. If they were caught like this, they would only face death. Kaoru sacrificed herself by pretending to have a stomachache and acting in front of the doctor so Pico could push him out of the second-floor window. There was no other way. When Eriko arrived, the two had escaped, leaving only the writhing cat behind. Kokoro and Pico took him to a traditional clinic where the doctor diagnosed that he would recover in a few days. Looking at the rash on his chest, the symptoms resembled a cold and were often misdiagnosed. But this case had been treated very well before, proving that the doctor was skilled. They wondered where they had taken him for examination. After learning it was Mitsuki's place, the practitioner said that although that person was a bit eccentric, her abilities were real, so everyone could rest assured. Hearing this, they were greatly relieved. Tomorrow, when they picked up Kaoru, she would probably be 3 times better, as the doctor had said, right? Kaoru came back. It seemed she really was 3 times better. During breakfast, Pico took out a flyer she had picked up. It advertised for people to come to Taga village to harvest ingredients for spices. The reward was a daily wage plus the village's famous product, Tagam seeds, classified as top tier to the point of being called fantasy spices. She wanted to do this mission together with everyone. Kaoru sighed. Fine, let's go. They quickly set out. The journey was very smooth. The beautiful scenery and romantic landscape were flawless. This could be seen as a camping trip that everyone enjoyed. Kaoru toiled all day and only managed to catch a seashell, while Kokoro kept collecting bugs to eat. The sun had already descended to hip level, and Kaoru had only caught 2 fish the size of tadpoles. This place was a real con. Kokoro consoled them, saying they could use wild vegetables along with the frogs that her master had caught to make soup. Better to chew on wild vegetables than nothing. Pico returned with high hopes. She had caught birds that looked very delicious. Whether birds or chickens, what Pico brought back was so large that the 4 of them could eat it comfortably. The cooking skills of a restaurant worker were beyond question. They never thought meat could be so juicy and delicious. Then she gave everyone the wild fruit she had picked. Kokoro was about to taste it to see if it was spicy or sweet when she saw the frog from earlier, which had just eaten this, rolling on the ground. Kaoru, as if drunk, rushed to hug Kokoro, acting spoiled like a child away from their mother. Only in situations like this could they really get to know each other, revealing all their true nature. Everyone had fallen asleep except for Kokoro. She sat by the fire, contentedly enjoying a fragrant cup of tea, watching her sleeping friends. Kokoro thought how lucky she was to form a team with everyone here. The next morning, everyone woke up for personal hygiene. Yuki truly had the protagonist's aura, meaning he couldn't be at peace for a moment. Kokoro had just let him go to wash his face by the lake, and when she returned, she found him in the mouth of a monster. It snatched him and ran away like the wind. At this moment, everyone finally reacted. He had been caught in its mouth and taken away. Fortunately, from somewhere, an arrow shot out and destroyed the monster, but threw him several meters away. Yuki's face hit a nearby tree trunk, and he fainted. In his daze, he could still hear people talking by his ear. Opening his eyes, he only encountered a piece of wood with a human face. Looking left and right, Yuki picked up the piece of wood and shook it, when a girl jumped out from behind the tree trunk. The cute little girl seemed to have a fear of social interaction, too shy to face him directly. Yuki returned the piece of wood, thanking her for saving him. The child bowed and introduced herself as Aoi. She swore she wasn't a weirdo. She just had a hobby of talking to dolls. This was the doll she used to practice when she had no friends. Its name was Number 1. Aoi, although able to talk to animals and plants, had no human friends, so she had always wished to find friends. And then several years passed. She still talked to Number 1 but had little contact with humans, so there weren't many stories to tell. She was also running out of things to say. Aoi blamed herself, saying that for someone like her, wanting to find friends was still 10 years too early. Yuki stammered out a couple of words. Aoi thought he was lonely like her, someone who wanted friends but had none, and happily jumped right into his situation. They would become friends and form a team. Aoi asked Number 1 if it had thought of any good names, then talked to herself and answered immediately. Yuki stood to the side, both scared and wanting to run, but feeling it would be impolite, so he just stood there in panic, indescribably. Finally, the other three arrived. Aoi stood stiff, greeting them perfunctorily. They continued on their journey while Aoi followed behind. Kaoru wanted her to walk alongside them, but she shyly declined. Pico said it was fortunate they met Aoi just as they arrived at Taiga village for harvesting. They had already reached the place. A beautiful girl came out to welcome everyone to Taiga village. The first question they received was asking for their group name. Kokoro froze. She hadn't thought about naming the group. Pico saved the day, saying their guild was Gourmet Palace. The other person introduced herself as Misato from the Forester Guild. Besides her, there were other girls in the village named Hizun, probably wandering around sleeping somewhere. Misato said that later, the Elizabeth Park Guild would also arrive to support. Everyone could wait a bit. Kokoro remembered that was the guild of the sweet older sister who had helped her when she went shopping not long ago. Meanwhile, Rima and her guild were on the move. The guild had 4 people. When they were preparing to rest, they encountered a very strange phenomenon. There were dark shadows appearing, with shapes no different from their own, and even matching magical power. It was terrifying, like looking into a mirror. The Gourmet Palace wandered around the village and discovered a girl floating in the sky, dozing off. Even when she hit a stone pillar and fell to the ground, she still slept soundly. Pecorin woke her up, asking if she was okay. It turned out to be Hatsumi, also from the Forester Guild that Misato had introduced. In the forest, Rima and her teammates skillfully defeated the strongest member of the opposing team, the fake Rima. Just when they thought they would win easily, a supernatural force rushed in, beating everyone up. It was Christina, Kairu's teammate, but not sharing the same aspirations. Hatsumi talked about her younger sister. The child loved books very much. Her name was Siorin. She was someone who, even when weak, could focus on reading books until late at night. Hatsumi had bought new books, waiting for the day to see her sister again. She and everyone else had no idea that at this very moment, the sister they were longing to see was facing a great disaster that would be hard to overcome on the other side of the forest. The 4 members of the Gourmet Guild were in the field early in the morning to begin harvesting fruits. Though the sun had just risen, everyone was extremely cheerful and full of energy. Kokoro picked up a handful of soil. This place had very good drainage systems. Surely the people had been taking care of the land every day. The fragrant spices made one's nose tingle. Just smelling them made stomachs rumble with hunger. Hatsumi approached. Today she wasn't sleeping on the streets anymore because whenever she used her superpowers, she would lose energy and fall asleep. So she had locked those powers away. Everyone was startled upon hearing this. It was the first time they had met someone with superpowers, not magic or sorcery. Misato consoled her, saying it was okay. Hatsumi didn't need to worry. It seemed they were all good people, so as long as they kept the secret, everything would be fine. The sound of villagers shouting attracted everyone's attention. They hurriedly ran to the source of the screams and discovered the Elizabeth Park group lying on stretchers, being carried back by villagers. Maharu weakly explained that they had encountered a group of imposters in the forest and were attacked by a mysterious evil woman. As for Siorin, they had lost her during the attack, but they had tried their best. No one could imagine how much effort it took for them to return here. Kokoro went to help Rima recover from her wounds, while villagers began to whisper among themselves. Indeed, the rumors were true. Recently, many people had reported encountering exact duplicates of themselves in the forest and being attacked by them. But it seemed the innkeeper in the village had also been missing for a few days now. Hatsumi used her supernatural ability to read Rima's memories and immediately knew this situation wasn't normal. She panicked, wanting to go find and rescue her sister. But Misato stopped her. Don't be impulsive. All beginnings are difficult. Stay calm to solve problems. We will go with you to rescue Sioran, she said. Yuki agreed, saying he would go too. Since the main character had agreed, there was no reason for the others to refuse. Aoi joined as well, a determined group leaving no one behind. This was originally not the Gourmet Guild's business. They had no reason to get involved. But their conscience wouldn't allow the whole team to ignore it. They didn't know that in that forest, an elaborate and powerful plan had already been set up, just waiting for someone to fall into the trap. Pico turned to invite Kaoru to join them on the journey, but discovered that she had already left some time ago. Meanwhile, let's call this opposing character with a temporary name, the antagonist. After hypnotizing a villager, she sucked the soul into her body. Without saying more, we know this person will cause difficulties for the main characters in the future. Rima had recovered after receiving treatment from Kokoro and returned to the forest where the accident occurred. Aoi sensed that the aura emanating from this place was very strange, as if it was suppressing itself out of fear of something. Hatsumi used magic to fly up and scout, when suddenly a force came from somewhere, aiming directly at her. Fortunately, as her time had not yet come, Hatsumi was unharmed, but the previous attack had drained all her energy, causing her to fall from a height of dozens of meters to the ground. The moment she saw a familiar name, she was bewildered. Sioran stepped out to face Hatsumi. However, something wasn't right. Sioran was changing color from gray to red, then transformed into a bow and arrow to attack her sister. Hatsumi used all the strength she had accumulated in half her life to block the next attack. After turning dark, Sioran was 100 times stronger. The impact from that phase shook the entire forest, burning a not-so-small area to the ground. When everyone arrived, they only saw Hatsumi kneeling on the ground with tears in her eyes. "Stop being dejected," they said. They had to confirm what was happening before the situation deteriorated further. Kaoru stood alone on the hilltop, lost in thought. Who else but that person possessed such power? She feared that if this continued, the village would eventually be consumed. Pico called from afar. Earlier, Pico had noticed Kaoru's terrible expression and was worried something was wrong. She hid her thoughts and rebutted. "You just saw wrong. When is Kaoru not like that? Not everyone is made of happiness like Pico." While the two were talking, another piercing scream rang out, followed by strange and bizarre sounds. Pico didn't hesitate and ran over. The village below had been surrounded by demons. Frightening souls closely followed the villagers. In the moment of life and death, Pico arrived in time to rescue a little girl. An arrow flew toward them. It was Sioran. What was the little girl doing here? Yuki and Rima ran after her and discovered that she was heading toward the village. Just as they were preparing to go rescue everyone, Christina appeared. Rima reminded everyone to be careful. She was the one who attacked the Elizabeth Guild. Chris easily took the upper hand, finding weaknesses and attacking. Yuki ran over to block but failed. Kokoro reacted in time to create a shield for protection. He rolled to the ground and fainted. In his dreamlike state, Yuki met the familiar goddess Ametsu, who woke him up. For the first time, Yuki panicked, asking her to send him back to reality immediately. His teammates were fighting a life-or-death battle down there. He had to return quickly to help them. Ametsu shook her head, surprised that Chris and Yuki had reunited so soon, but likely she didn't remember either. Currently, Ametsu still couldn't intervene in reality. The only one who could save Kokoro's group was him. Release the power of the Princess Knight, the power you used freely before losing your memory. Remember and save them, she said. Even the strongest-hearted Rima had collapsed. Yuki woke up as if by a miracle, without wasting words, released his power to buff energy for everyone. Everyone felt as if they had been reborn, many times stronger. Initially, Rima transformed into human form and boldly attacked. They were about to succeed. Yuki was going for the finishing blow, but Christina was never easy to defeat. She easily blocked Yuki's sharp sword and added a kick that sent him flying. Today, I've gathered plenty of information, so I'll stop here. That little Sioran seems to have been consumed by darkness, but if her consciousness is still there, There must be a way, she said. Pico was still struggling against attacks from the dark power, but of course, she was no match. Kaoru initially just wanted to watch, but in the end, couldn't resist joining the battle. That little kid still hadn't gotten up, and they had to harvest ingredients and get spices for cooking. In the misty smoke rising from the battlefield, Hatsumi descended from the sky, ran into Sioran's subconscious, and successfully escaped. They joined forces to break free from the mind control, liberating the darkness from her soul. The entire group worked together to completely eliminate all threats. Peace returned to the tranquil village with no casualties. After returning from the village, the Gourmet Palace Guild completed many other missions and received praise from Lady Karen, who belonged to the Guild Management Association. They spent beautiful days together, sitting in the large field, which was also the main rice production area of Landosen. Everyone worked diligently. The rice was delicious, but recently many wild animals had appeared in this area, causing people a lot of difficulties. Birds and wild boars kept coming to cause trouble, and despite the farmers' efforts to drive them away, they were unsuccessful. So this mission was to help the farmers eliminate these pests, with the reward being princess rice from this very field. Kaoru couldn't escape reporting back to the demon lord about the events in Taga village, her whole body trembling uncontrollably. The queen had given her an additional mission to monitor Yuki and report back. Ending her reminiscence, Kaoru took a sip of water and looked toward the guild. What's the point of monitoring these people, she thought. It seems so pointless. While everyone was focusing on selecting a mission, Yuki noticed a paper posted below, a mission to find a master. Karen stepped forward and told everyone, this isn't an officially recognized mission. Those kids just keep posting it there, even though it gets taken down countless times. Kaoru found this meaningless, and they left, empty-handed today. Yuki still held on to that paper, lost in thought. Just as they exited, he encountered some children making a noisy, pitiful scene. Whoever has the time can care about it. I'm going home, Kaoru said. Seeing this, the children moved in front of her, blocking her way and continuing to cry. The result was still a meeting at a drink shop to talk. It turned out they were the ones who posted that paper. The little ones were very interested in finding a master to teach them to be real adventurers. Kaoru asked why they were so interested in guild activities, and they answered, for the peace of Landosen. Better not to have said anything. Saying it only made everyone present feel more embarrassed. They didn't even know what they were doing. Yet these children were already way ahead. It was embarrassing, not knowing where to hide their faces. Yuki agreed to become the children's master right on the spot. That night, Kaoru lay on the hammock, not knowing what to do. This mission was both easy and difficult. Seemingly easy but challenging, not much different from being a kindergarten teacher. Kaoru denied that she would be a good guide. She didn't like children. If it weren't for the fact that these girls were more polite and well-mannered than many people, she would probably hate them a lot too. Meanwhile, Pico was tinkering with crafts, preparing for tomorrow, and what Yuki would give the children after completing the mission. Pico didn't say anything, but whatever Yuki was making looked a bit hideous. The next morning, Pico's first lesson was treasure hunting. The places marked with X on the map were where treasures were buried deep. Find them and bring them back. Yuki has the responsibility to watch over you. Don't worry because the route Pico painstakingly prepared has been checked beforehand to ensure there are no monsters, she said. Kaoru sighed. Why did she feel so uneasy? The three hid behind tree trunks, monitoring the process as Yuki and the three children completed the mission. The compass always pointed north, but the naive young man thought it was showing the way, confidently guiding the children to turn in that direction. The price of getting lost was getting tangled in a web of trouble. The little ones were surrounded by spiders and took a long time to handle the situation. Taking this opportunity, the three immediately reminded the main character. Yuki nodded and agreed. Unbelievably, instead of following the instructions to go back the way they came, he flipped the map and pointed toward a direction as vague as their future. The perfect route that took so much effort to establish no choice but to use the secret prop. Pico had spent all night making this monster costume. She used all her intelligence to remind the children that this path wouldn't lead to results. Unexpectedly, she encountered a group of daredevils who worked together seamlessly to defeat her. The route increasingly deviated. They were heading toward the most dangerous place possible. They encountered countless monsters. Yuki couldn't even count how many mouths he had crawled into. Kaoru and Kokoro rescued him nearly to death, sitting and breathing as if being chased by ghosts. Kaoru didn't understand why they had to be the ones so tired. Not giving his teammates a moment's peace, Yuki was very good at creating work for others. He smoothly crawled into the mouth of a bird monster. Kokoro, Kaoru, and Pecorin went to its cave. They realized this was the mastermind behind the destruction of the fields. No wonder the farmers couldn't do anything, even calling the entire family of farmers would be useless. Because they had been fighting monsters all day, both had no strength left. They had forgotten that Pecorin, once full, would become how exceptional. She found the lunchboxes of the little ones and kicked a few pieces. The bird nest exploded. The 3 children woke up, thinking they had won. Pecorin happily replied while planting rice, "It's the mission the farmers asked for help with. They will receive the rice reward. Pico will cook for everyone. It's very delicious." The children were playing with baby ostriches in the next field, extremely happy. From when it hatches, the first thing a baby bird sees will be considered its mother. It seems it has already seen those 3 kids as family. Landosen is a large urban area. One only needs to buy things and receive tickets to participate in a lucky draw. Kokoro liked those shoes because she thought they would suit Yuki well. She put out 4 tickets, spun continuously 3 times, getting white balls until the final turn. The elegant Kaoru from 2 months ago has disappeared, replaced by an energetic girl who loves planting rice. Her stomach was rumbling loudly. She carried her purchases home to prepare dinner. As soon as she opened the door, she saw everyone packing as if preparing to go to the beach. Pico said Kokoro had won the first prize in the draw, so they would be going to the beach. That night, while Yuki was sitting absent-mindedly on his bed ready to sleep, Kokoro knocked and entered. "Perhaps you're wondering why I'm dressed like this," she said. Kokoro explained that she had lived in the mountains since childhood, so she had no concept of swimwear. She didn't know if this looked good. Because she felt worried, she came to ask his opinion. Although the saleswoman complimented her, saying she looked very cute, if Yuki didn't approve, she wouldn't wear it anymore. Of course, the main character wouldn't criticize. Basically, it actually looked good. Kokoro sighed in relief. She had tried to borrow a swimming book from the library. "You should try practicing," she suggested. In the quiet night, 2 people were practicing swimming on land, making the little cat on the floor below unable to sleep well. That morning was fortunately a beautiful day. Pico, wearing a cute swimsuit, excitedly touched the sea. "Thank you all so much. Without you, how would they have the opportunity to enjoy such beautiful scenery at no cost?" Pico was happy, so she was pleased. Kaoru hid behind, not daring to show herself. Who would have thought that just after receiving a mission to monitor them, she would immediately encounter the beach disaster? Pico played with Yuki in the sea, splashing water on him. Yuki had no basic concept, nor any natural reflexes. He just opened his eyes wide to receive all the seawater into them, only feeling the pain afterward and covering his face. Kokoro, like a childcare worker, guided him patiently. "There's salt in the water, so at times like this, Yuki must close his eyes to avoid it," she explained. "Oh, so that's it," he realized. Yuki caught on and teased both of them back. Pico, excited, splashed back at Kokoro and Yuki, who then drifted with the current several meters away. Of course, they couldn't leave out Kaoru. Pico came up with an idea to play with Kaoru. She played the role of a spaceship engine, pushing the other person around the beach. This experience terrified Kaoru. When they returned, Pico was exhausted, pushing both of them into a dangerous situation that seemed like they were about to be reincarnated. Kaoru angrily scolded her. "Don't underestimate the sea like that." Kokoro was a bit surprised. "I thought Pico never got tired. How did she end up nearly drowning in the middle of the sea?" "Let me tell you all a secret," Pico said. "Actually, the regular clothes I wear all support enhancing strength, nourishing physical condition, recovering from fatigue, preventing cold, preventing shoulder pain, and a billion other unnamed functions. But in return, after using them, my stomach gets hungrier. Sometimes I can even faint from hunger, which happens quite often. Without this equipment, Pico is no different from a normal girl." Kokoro now understood that both Pico's strength and her appetite had such a terrifying secret. Kaoru felt a bit uneasy and asked directly, "Is it okay to reveal that secret so openly?" Pico giggled. "We're teammates, it's fine." Somehow, they met the maid Suzum here again. She was experiencing a brake failure with her donkey and was galloping on the beach road over there. Kokoro's group went to help her stop and exchanged information, learning that Saren was also nearby, opening a shop. They quickly moved to greet the older sister and ordered a lavish feast. It didn't disappoint. The food was delicious, and the shop owner was beautiful. Saren watched the gourmet palace team eat and felt very pleased. As rumored, they truly enjoyed eating. but something wasn't quite right. In this hot noon, the shop was surprisingly empty of customers, despite the 10/10 food. Saren explained that there was another shop on this beach. The famous dish there had taken all her customers away. Just have to accept it. It's fair competition, she said. Pico consoled her. It's okay. If we come here to eat every day, the problem will be solved. But what's the best-selling item over there? The competing store truly knew how to do business. Not only was the scale impressive, but the service was also cheerful and enthusiastic. In terms of appearance, the shopkeeper indeed couldn't compete. The problem was that they retained customers through skill. Unwillingly, one had to admit their grilling was really good. Business opportunities must be seized through unexpected approaches. Following the beaten path, who knows when success would come. Sorry that our first exchange wasn't an introduction. My name is Aquino, leader of the Mercurius Commerce Guild, she said. Now let me explain more specifically. Eating cold ice cream in hot weather is an old-fashioned thought. Bathing in seawater makes the body colder, which is precisely when we need to supplement heat and sugar. Aquino approached Saren and challenged her. However, the shop owner maintained a firm attitude like steel. Don't try in vain anymore. Saren won't work under Aquino, she said. Mifuyu, unable to stand the shop owner's way of talking, directly expressed her true feelings. Actually, the boss wants to recruit Saren's talent to work for her, but is hesitant. Sorry for the lack of subtlety in communication. Although with the amateurs in this team, that might be a bit difficult. Words like salt on a wound made Kaoru furious, the fire of anger burning intensely in her heart, impossible to suppress. Our gourmet palace will create a super-quality menu, she declared. Aquino wasn't actually that bad. Saren spoke up to clarify. Her parents were wealthy, but Aquino said she didn't want to depend on her family, so she established the Mercurius restaurant. The shop owner was very happy that Gourmet Palace volunteered to help, but felt guilty about ruining their vacation. The goal of Gourmet Palace when established was to find and research delicious food. Saren just needs to be at ease, they reassured her. On the other side, 2 employees of the Mercurius restaurant were taking a break after a tiring work shift. One was savoring taiyaki cake, while the other was downing a cup of wine. Because Aquino said she wanted to open a shop, she came to help. But somehow, why did they keep encountering couples holding hands and kissing, making her itchy all over? No, she had to end this single period. Her friend was dead drunk, not knowing what was going on. The colleague couldn't stand this messy scene and threw her into the sea, despite the sign forbidding swimming. Suddenly, she saw her friend's head buried in the sand, feet sticking up, not knowing if the sand was too deep or if she was stuck in something. Suddenly, the water surface rose up in the middle of the air. Her piercing scream echoed along the beach. People scattered, shouting because a monster had appeared. The sound of gongs rang out, attracting the attention of Pico and everyone else who were catching fish by the shore. That drunk girl still hadn't woken up. Wasn't that irritating? Bee quickly ran over. After learning what happened, she risked herself running down to grab the other girl with just her bare hands. What a troublesome situation. Watch Kaoru quell this rebellion and learn, someone said. Physical strength couldn't overcome the 12 divine spells. Both sides quickly subdued the large octopus, and finally, they could rest. As for this octopus, of course, they had to turn it into an excellent business opportunity. The 2 lifelong rivals took the initiative to reconcile when Saren managed to get a stable customer base for her shop. This battle didn't end because one side lost, but because both sides accepted declaring war and peace and were ready to cooperate for mutual development. Kaoru took everyone to explore the seabed, enjoying scenery they had never seen before. The episode ends with a scene full of emotion. Everyone returned home after the vacation ended. Kokoro wanted to bring this fresh octopus to the restaurant owner. Pekarin went shopping today, so she didn't come along. Kokoro thought that since it was fresh, it would be better to deliver it early. Opening the door to enter, today's scene was stranger than usual. 2 regular customers stood at one end of the table, almost kneeling, begging the shop owner to make food for them. But he just indifferently hugged his knees, his mouth constantly saying, "Pudding, pudding." Kokoro was about to remind the owner to rest when he suddenly jumped up and rushed to make cakes. Yuki pointed to the ceiling, saying there was something up there. However, no one besides him could see anything. Suddenly, a voice spoke up, introducing herself as Shinobu, the nameless fortune teller in the city who had heard that the owner was showing signs, so she came to investigate. A moment later, she discovered a ghost floating in the air above the uncle's head. The little ghost was happily eating the cake that he had painstakingly made for it. Considering Yuki's ability to see non-physically existing entities, Shinobu wanted to invite him to visit her guild. This house had a strange atmosphere, both dark and cold as ice. Suddenly, an axe fell right in front of Yuki. Looking up, he saw two little girls trembling with fear. The two blamed Shinobu for bringing an outsider home. She consoled them, saying this person could help the king of the Shadow People, the legendary vampire, fully recover. Kokoro didn't understand anything, but all the terms made her feel dangerous. Before the two could turn around, a swarm of bats appeared behind them, with a voice in the air preventing them from leaving. Reluctantly, everyone continued to step deeper inside. A giant crystal was placed in the middle of the room. The person inside opened her eyes to greet Yuki and Kokoro. She was the ruler of the night, Yulia Onstein. Kokoro could sense the enormous magical source inside the crystal. Onstein opened a space, appearing before everyone. Surprisingly, as soon as she stepped out of the coffin, Onstein's body became smaller, looking petite and very cute. Shinobu reintroduced the truth about who stood before them. This was the queen of the demon race and also the queen who led all against the human race, elves, and beastmen. She had lost in the divine battle and was finally sealed away. They had helped her break the seal, but due to lack of magical power, she had been reduced to this small size. Kokoro was still worried that she might eat her master, but the other had no such intention. Onstein placed her hand on Yuki's chest, feeling the source of power inside his body. This would be the key to help her restore omnipotence. All plans fell apart when the bats rushed to attack Onstein. What face would they have if subordinates bullied their own master? Who would have thought her magic would be so depleted? Yuki, seeing her being attacked, went to hug her and ran away. Perhaps seeing her injured touched his heart, as he suddenly awakened his power. The energy emanating from his body directly affected Onstein. She immediately transformed back to her original adult form. Now it was time to show those creatures who their master was. The magical force covering the hills made everyone startled. Now they believed she truly was the legendary vampire. But the show of power didn't last long before she shrank back to her mini form. Kokoro reminded Yuki to leave while they weren't paying attention. The little ghost's pudding had just been knocked to the ground by him. They couldn't just leave like that. The little one would curse them. Kaoru was at home waiting for everyone to return. When she heard a knock on the door, she opened it to welcome them. However, what faced her was a group of frightening demons. "Where did you go to bring back this bunch? What if we all get cursed?" Kaoru cried while speaking. "Come inside first, then we'll figure it out." Kokoro explained everything to Kaoru, but she still couldn't stop panicking. Who would accept that their home suddenly had a ghost? Pico, while shopping, encountered acquaintances. It was rare to see everyone going together. The fat guy mentioned that the owner had been possessed by an invisible entity. Fortunately, little Yuki had resolved it in time, so they were drinking to celebrate. As soon as he finished speaking, he received a pan hit from behind. Pico, on her way, went to help her and her mother, having a very pleasant conversation. Right at this moment at home, Kaoru was in a tangled mess, continuously stirring a bunch of pudding. Kokoro wanted to convince the little ghost that their house had someone who was very good at cooking, suggesting that she should let her cook for her. Of course, Misako refused. When Pico returned, the whole house had turned into pudding. She promised the little one that she would make a super delicious dish, as long as Misako turned everyone back to their original form afterward. Just after trying the first bite, the little ghost transcended, thinking this time she would successfully ascend. But then Pico brought out two huge bugs, terrifying Misako, who returned to land in a minute. Shinobu took the liberty of taking this troublesome kid back. The next morning when everyone woke up for breakfast, Pico couldn't find Kaoru and directly charged in, kicking open the window of her room. Kaoru helplessly looked at Pico, reminding her, "Next time, please respect everyone's private space. Because of you, my favorite teddy bear is ruined now." "Don't worry, dependable Kokoro is here," she said. Everyone went to the market to find materials for repairs. First, they should find materials the same color as the stuffed animal. There were many stalls in the market, so they split up to buy things. Yuki encountered evil energy attacking villagers and took up his sword to fight. Of course, he was no match for it. When the evil spirit was about to hypnotize Yuki, a girl appeared from an alley, easily destroying the opponent and saving him at the last minute. Yuki froze, but contrary to his attitude, the girl greeted him like an old acquaintance. After talking as if they were very close, she finally remembered that he had lost his memory. Before the conversation could go anywhere, another girl had grabbed her and ran away. In a hidden corner, The girl who had just claimed to be Yuki's older sister apologized for being impulsive. They had clearly been assigned the mission to quietly observe from the shadows, yet she couldn't resist rushing out there. Reno was both angry and jealous. She also wanted to talk to him. Maybe she should just go out there and see what happens. After an earth-shaking collision, the little one forgot her recent intention and obediently followed her older sister. Kokoro searched and searched but couldn't find what she needed. However, she noticed an extremely beautiful butterfly that also seemed somewhat familiar. Kokoro chased it into a dead end, where it disappeared. They returned to gather together. None of the three members found what they needed, but everyone didn't give up. Kokoro suggested they split up to search again. Perhaps they had missed something. Kaoru, after finishing cleaning the house, remembered her master's words and went to the queen to report. On the way, she saw wild flowers and picked them, thinking the lady would like them. At the royal palace, Kaoru entered but didn't see the person she was looking for anywhere. She looked around and called for the queen. After a while, there was a response in front of her. The great antagonist was upgrading shadows to become stronger. "How do you like this?" she asked. Kaoru clutched the wild flowers in her hand, her eyes reflecting fear that couldn't be hidden. "What are you planning to do now?" she asked. When that puppet passed by Kairu's bouquet, the flowers immediately withered. Kokoro and Yuki went looking for thread and fabric for patching, but didn't find any, accidentally being attracted by a roadside bakery. Yuki ate sloppily, and Kokoro used a handkerchief to wipe for him. But fearing that leaving it like that would leave stains, Kokoro asked permission to go wash it. She was walking normally when an arrow blocked her path. Kokoro looked at the paper attached to the bough, opened it to read, and saw someone hiding behind a nearby tree. Reno angrily came to question what the girls considered this threatening action to be. She was the servant who walked beside Yuki. Reno jumped up and down. Saizuru, seeing the commotion, ran over to check, and Reno quickly tattled. "There's some girl always clinging to Yuki." Shizuru was indeed much more mature. She came to apologize to Kokoro for the disturbance. It was just because her younger sister was a bit extreme. Kokoro wondered if the two of them knew Yuki. Just as they were about to answer, they realized that the main character had disappeared from the face of the earth, with only a half-eaten pastry lying around. Could he have been captured by the shadow demons? They couldn't rule out the possibility. Lately, mysterious disappearances had been occurring in the city. They had to split up to search. Kokoro returned to find Pico, informing her about his disappearance and that shadows seemed to be infiltrating the city. Although not certain, they couldn't find any other clues. Suddenly, two villagers passed by, discussing some guy who had just caused trouble and was taken away. Without hearing the subject, they already knew who was involved in that mess. After finding this information, they quickly went to that place. Pico kicked the door and rushed in, but instead of Yuki, it was Cherai, who easily handed over the person without any effort. On the other side, the two sisters Reno were fighting with supernatural entities, but also couldn't discover anything unusual. The clues remained at the starting line without moving. They had to post a missing person notice. Karen came to ask, and after learning what happened, pointed out that Yuki had just come by. Yuki, hugging something seven-colored and looking all dirty, walked in. This morning, while eating a hot dog on the sidewalk, he had seen the haunting figure of Eriko doing her shopping. He was terrified and ran non-stop, abandoning everything, then accidentally saw the mission notice on the bulletin board. Thinking it was what they needed to patch the teddy bear, he went to find it himself. Indeed, even if he had lost his memory, Yuki would always help others unconditionally, truly deserving to be Shizuru's most beloved brother in the world. Kaoru silently returned home. That shadow was completely different from the previous ones. Would it be okay? Before entering the house, she adjusted her attitude to be as cheerful as possible, because she didn't want everyone to worry. Yet the house was completely empty. Kaoru's tears welled up. Pico took out today's mission form. Actually, she had gone to the market this morning, but there weren't many items. People said a monster had blocked the bridge, which was a traffic artery, so no one could enter or leave the city to trade. If the Lando authorities took action, everything would probably be fine. But for some reason, the royal troops remained silent. Pico saw it on the mission board and wanted to do it. This was no longer just a dangerous mission but signing a death certificate. Nothing changed. Everyone still accepted the mission as if facing this terrifying monster was a joy of life. Pico outlined the plan. They needed to lure the monster away first to avoid breaking the bridge. Pico's shoulder armor had defensive power, so they just needed someone to wear it and run very fast. Pico knew that Kaoru wouldn't let Kokoro or Yuki do this trick. "This is the last time I'll listen to Pico's crazy schemes," Kaoru said. The monster tripped over a rope stretched across the path. Pico quickly raised her sword for a finishing blow. Thanks to Pico helping the villagers defeat the monster, she became as famous as an A-list star. Praise surrounded her from all sides, making Pico very happy. Everyone was happy because their livelihood was no longer threatened. By coincidence, Kokoro led the group right to the shop where Yuki and Kokoro had tried food on their first day in Landosan. Two female employees coming out made it even more coincidental. They were none other than Rino and Suzuru. The shop owner turned out to be another arrangement in Yuki's life adventure. They left everything for the Rino sisters to handle. The owner had business to attend to, so she left first. It had been a long time since they had a chance to gather. Suzuru proactively invited everyone for a meal. "Don't be shy. Eat to your heart's content," she said. They had no idea how many consequences these words would bring. As a result, Pico ate until the shop nearly collapsed. The light meal ended. Fortunately, the two sisters were still alive. They should be included in the list of resilient spirits worthy of commendation. At night, deep memories gradually returned to Yuki's mind. Amitsu met him again, trying to calm him from the hellish nightmare. What he saw was neither reality nor dream. It was the past. An endless loop, or perhaps his future. "Sorry for pushing you to this point, but we have no other choice. Amitsu has always believed that Yuki can do it. Let's meet at victory, shall we?" Opening his eyes and waking up, Yuki was still dazed. He decided to ask Pico to train him in swordsmanship. Today, Yuki was very different. He no longer smiled or joked at Kairu's teasing, but instead wore a very serious expression. With sustenance to support the way, they went to a restaurant to feast. Strangely, Kairu was still nowhere to be seen. Before she arrived, they might as well order another portion just like that. Everyone started discussing the kingdom's princess. The atmosphere was lively, with only Pico silently eating. Kairu encountered two street vagrants while preparing to go to the restaurant. These men were always either drinking wine or beer. The light was suddenly obscured by a strange entity, the upgraded shadow that had been in Kairu's thoughts for days. Seeing the commotion, Pico went to check. When she encountered the monster, it was already attacking people. She ran up and cut off one of its arms. Of course, with the usual motif, it would regrow its arm. But this time, it attacked even more viciously. Kairu couldn't bear to turn a blind eye and ran over to support. They fought and fought. Pico quickly cut the beast in half. The monster miraculously revived, releasing magic that collapsed the wall. Rocks and earth were about to bury Kairu's small body, but Pico blocked it with her leg, removing her shoulder guard and giving it to Kairu. Pico left a smile as if to comfort her, then entrusted her life to the battle. Through the smoke, they saw a hole in Shadow's head, and Pico fell down powerlessly. Kairu blamed her for being foolish. "Why did you have to risk your life to protect someone weak? Only to end up like this?" Kokoro and Yuki arrived to find this scene. The monster was recovering. Kokoro tried to save Pico while Yuki used his power to increase his teammates' strength. Suddenly, the scene of everyone falling appeared in Yuki's mind, making him dizzy. Shadow reached out to grab him when walls grew up from the ground. When Yuki opened his eyes again, the surroundings had become desolate. The bread seller appeared. She had been using a fake identity to hide around Yuki. Kokoro and Pecorin had been taken to a safe place. Kokoro and Pico were brought to the Landosan castle. There, Kokoro saw a family portrait with Pecorin in the middle. The truth was unveiled after being concealed by silence for a long time. Pico's real name was Tiana von Ace, the princess of Landosan. Her family wanted her to listen to the voices of the nation's people with her own ears, view them through her own eyes, and experience them herself. When she returned, her father believed it would be time for her to mature and lead the country to a better future. The crown on her head was the power protecting Tiana from danger. She traveled throughout the country, experiencing different lives. But when she completed her journey and returned, the soldiers strangely wouldn't let her in. Tiana had no choice but to break in by jumping over the high city gate and accidentally bumping into her mother's maid. She could never forget the look cast upon her at that moment. The maid was scared as if she were an assassin breaking into the palace. Tiana wanted to escape from this nightmarish reality. Finding the king and queen, she said she had experienced the world. But through her parents' silence, she knew they didn't recognize her either. The door behind opened, and the person everyone believed to be real entered. Somehow, a battle broke out, and she escaped. She continued her journey around the world and met Kokoro. Although Pico was very happy living with everyone, deep down, she was always afraid of being forgotten again. So that was why Pico always held tightly to all her friends, ensuring the connection between her and everyone wouldn't disappear. Kokoro hugged Pico to comfort her, saying no one here would leave, they would become her strength. Kaoru, who had witnessed everything from behind, turned to face the monster as if she had been given additional strength. The bread-selling sister said she was ashamed to call herself Yuki's ally because she had dragged him into this mess, but she would definitely support him to the end. Inside him was hidden a power that could both save everyone and destroy himself. Currently, Yuki had lost his memory, unclear whether it was due to this power's influence. But if he released the power now, no one knew what effect it would have on him. Perhaps that's why Yuki couldn't use it in the previous battle. Shadows were lured by human souls. They had destroyed many villages already, thus containing enormous power. Desire had created them. Yuki had to find a way to fight. In this world, as long as Yuki existed, they would never win. The captain of the Royal Knights had sealed off the ruins after the battle to search for clues. Christina, in the role of vice captain, appeared. Such a major incident, and they only learned about it after everything had ended. Who knew what the queen in that castle wanted to do next? On the other side, Kaoru was fighting with all her might. Deep in her heart, she wavered between two paths, with her conscience torn no matter which side she fought for. Kaoru chose to let go, stop fighting, and let death decide everything. She was tired of standing in the middle, becoming an obstacle for both sides. Fortunately, Pecorin appeared just in time. Thinking Yuki was hesitating about what to do, his sister was about to apologize to let things follow their course. But no, Yuki might be a memoryless fool, but he knew what needed to be protected. The main character was ready to fight. Then let's go, she said. I'll lend you some power to fight. I hope Yuki will bring back good news. The Gourmet Guild was all present. Now was the time to show them that a lake not roaring doesn't mean it's on the same level as a house cat. Yuki unleashed his power to let everyone go ahead. When it was his turn, Kokoro supported from behind, increasing protective armor and helping him successfully strike Shadow's weak point. It dissolved into smoke, disappearing in midair. The entire group was summoned back to Landosan village, appearing in the middle of the inn as if resurrected from hell, causing everyone present to burst with emotion. Peace had returned. The war might not be over, but today, the Gourmet Palace had formed an extremely tight bond. Pecorin hugged Kaoru tightly. This time, the feisty cat didn't push the other away. They returned each other's affectionate embrace, opening up a future full of light.